Okay, so today's agenda are who does not know ENS? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6, like 7, yeah, about 10% of people. So I'll do the very quick introduction of what ENS does, and also who has ENS name. Okay, probably about the same number or a bit less. Okay, and yeah, so for these people who has a name, you have to do something. So that's gonna, like, I'll explain what that is, and I'll explain how you do it as well. But before that, yeah, so introduction of ENS and its a brief history is that, so yes, my name is the 0x5A3A427B65FA093DEC, and then other stuff is my basically Ethereum address, but obviously I wouldn't remember. But what I would remember instead is my ENS name is Makoto.eth, right? So like it's on my t-shirts printed here, and I have a, I think, business card which does actually says Makoto.eth as well somewhere. So if you know, like someone wants to send me ETH, I don't think anyone has ever sent me actually ETH just because doing this presentation, but you know, just in case, you know where to send, basically. Yeah. So basically, it's just to provide a name, just like internet, like, you know, rather than typing IP address, you usually type like domain name. That's the equivalent thing. And has anyone used something like MetaMask? Yeah, most people know. Yeah. So usually you copy and paste the address there, but like you can type like Makoto.eth and it quickly converts into Ethereum address. That's exactly how it works. It's very easy. And as you can see, it all depends on wherever you interact with, so all the tools and ecosystem to support. Like if people don't actually implement it, you can use it because MetaMask integrated with us, right? So like if you think about other stuff, empty, yeah. So there's a lot of wallets. For example, Argent. I think they're the last month's speaker. The new wallet also supports ENS. So as like I'm token, cipher, less status, and yeah, MetaMask Mist is now deprecated, so we should get rid of it. Yeah, my crypto, my Ether wallet. Has anyone used any? Like some of them. Okay, good. So you should know how to use it, basically.
Makoto, LivePeer also supports ENS now.
Yes. Yeah, send the pull request to update the web page. And so when I first heard about this ENS thing, I thought it's some special software. Then it turned out it's just another smart contract. Does anyone know smart contract? Yeah? Okay, good. Yeah, so it's just another smart contract. It's built with, and it's actually the collection of smart contract that what you interact. So it's kind of chicken and egg situation, but to use the name, you actually have to know the address of ENS, and so ENS itself has Ethereum address, and that's where it's actually the smart contract of so-called registry, which contains all the information about basically the names and its names, but it doesn't actually contain its associated addresses. That's actually into something called resolvers. So like first when you look up, I want to know the Ethereum address of Makoto.eth. First you ask the registry that, which actually rather than returns this internally, like in the UI you just get the Ethereum address straight, but like internally it actually returns this resolver address, and you ask the resolver what it is, then it returns back. So it's 2 steps, and I'll probably explain why you need it in the next slide, hopefully. And this is one of the examples. So manager.ens domain is one of the app I'm also working on. It's basically it brings UI to the to interact with Ethereum smart contract ENS. Then where you can find is that does this work as?
It's just a microphone.
Oh, shit. There's a button, so I thought it does. Yeah. So here you can see the owner is 0xYber, that's my address. Then there's a place to set the resolver, and then once you set the resolver, then you can select to set the address, and you can put and save. That's kind of UI. And if you look at it, it's actually not just Ethereum address you can set. Also, does anyone know like something called like IPFS? Okay, who doesn't know IPFS? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. So again, there's another one called Swan. So there, IPFS is, what is it? Yeah. So it's like basically for mostly like smart contract, you don't actually put on the smart contract. You usually put some sort of like logic, programming, computing logic, not necessarily computing logic, but logic to decide who gets what, that kind of stuff. But you don't necessarily put like a music or like big files and this stuff. That's like too much to put in a blockchain. Rather, there's another system called that IPFS, or there's another that's called Swarm, which what it guarantees is that it has a unique URL dedicated to that content, and it's actually the hash of the content becomes a URL, so that it kind of guarantees that this content, if you're going to the same address, it guarantees that contents has never changed, because most of the website it doesn't necessarily guarantee. And like them, they also have the same issue that they have a gobbledygook number. So we can actually help them by setting that content hash. And again, this kind of IPFS things, if you can't easily resolve it, it's useless. But now, like for example, if you have a MetaMask extension, you can actually go to something.eth, and if that .eth has the content set, you can see that site. And so was the latest addition is Opera. Opera is actually browser announced their support on these IPFS stuff, so you can do that as well. And okay, so far I explained what registry and what's resolvers. But if you look at the first page, there's also another contract called registrar, and this is a kind of main topic of today. Is like a registrar, as the name suggests, allows you to register a name. But there's a lots of, again, like you can another reason why resolver has a multiple is that like it kind of allows you to kind of swap out the logic. For example, this previous content, before it didn't have the right formats to distinguish various protocol, so people were just putting whatever stuff. But we came up with a new protocol to call content hash. So as part of it, we have to upgrade. And as you know, like smart contract, immutable things, so it's very difficult to kind of upgrade smart contract. But by detaching this registry, which is a main interaction point to interact with the logic to resolve, if you can kind of switch and it's pluggable, it makes you a lot easier to upgrade. So that's part of the reason to do make resolver. The reason we have resolver. And similar token that like, so if you are the owner of the certain domain, then usually you can set out you can change the ownership, or you can change underneath, or you can create another subdomain. But doing all that manually is quite time consuming. So you can also delegate that access to smart contract. And one thing called hash registrar is the smart contract which is in charge of basically who can have the name under the .eth domain. So like in this token.eth, when we first launched, that's the only top level domain you have name under. And if you look at can you guys kind of see ish? Like on the top, it says about 270,000 names are owned under .eth. So that's pretty much roughly the whole names exists under .eth address. But there's another thing called, does anyone know something called reverse registrar?
What?
Reverse registrar. Well, reverse record actually.
Yeah.
So like in ENS, you have to know my ENS name to find out address. But you can actually also do the reverse of knowing my Ethereum address. For example, if I'm a dApp developer, and if people sign in using MetaMask or something, I already know your Ethereum address. I can look up my Ethereum name reversely. So that logic is actually exists, which not many people knows, but it's actually based is like we actually have another logic to basically have reverse relationship of like address as a key and name as a value. So that's the second one. So like of the 300,000 people who registered kind of names, only less than 2,000 people actually have this reverse record, but that's what it represents. And also, it's not just the ETH address, but you can also actually integrate, if you have the ownership of DNS, domain name. Who has a website, actually? Good? Yeah, and if you have website and you have a control over your DNS record. Does anyone know DNS? Who doesn't? Yeah. And you can put a basically text record in someone's subdomain. And if you put your Ethereum address, there's some magical ways which let anyone to prove the relationship in the DNS to submit into smart contract to prove that you actually own that domain. Then by that information, for example, I have a matoku.xyz DNS domain, then I can have Ethereum ENS name under XYZ. And that also happens for the number 5.lux has about 500 and the .xyz actually 48. It's actually technically quite complex, so there's only 48 people who've done it so far. But these things, like each of them have its own unique logic. For example, this hash, so reverse register, and also, another thing is all the other things. So, do you know what they represent, these numbers? Anyone can guess? So for example, state of us.eth, do you know who owns that Ethereum address? Good. And Gitcoin ETH? Yes. Yeah. Yes. So, and what they do is once you own the domain, you can also issue a subdomain. So what they are doing is like they are issuing the subdomain to users. So these are the kind of shows like how many people, I actually do have Makoto.gitcoin.eth because I registered their service, that kind of stuff. And I will explain later, but like getting these Matoken.eth was a relatively difficult thing before. So by DApp helping issuing a subdomain for their user was a kind of good ways to market because now people says like, hey, send money to makoto.gitcoin.eth. It's almost like Gmail or Hotmail kind of stuff. And these are the graph. But again, each logic has different. You need a different smart contract. So that's the registrar. So far, okay? Ish. Okay. And so let's dive into hash registrar a bit more. Who has done this auction before? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so it's actually done. Yeah, so like I just brought the word auction just now. But so what happens is like it's managed by smart contract, and what you do is like you basically said, I want this name. I want my token.eth, and I'll buy it. So I'll just put the money into smart contract. And one of the kind of obvious thing, but people might not know is like, for example, everybody said, everybody, you can use anything for blockchain. And the people try to do so many things. But if you try to kind of do with private information, one thing you have to bear in mind, like all the data is in public. So if you want to do kind of private auction or something, if you just put the money, and as soon as you put money and the information goes to the blockchain, anyone can know how much you put. So people can outbid and all the stuff. So to prevent that, we often use pattern called commit and reveal model. That when you first put the price, you kind of hide it for a certain time period, which was 3 days, I think. Then after that, you disallow anyone to put new price. Then you reveal to kind of prevent a cheat. So that's kind of pattern to do some sort of like private kind of voting or like auction in the blockchain, but that's quite UX-wise, it's very inconvenient. And when we first did it, we put the 5 days, so like 3 days commit phase, followed by 2 days reveal phase. Then you have to do finalize as well. So you actually have to send 3 transactions, which again, very inconvenient. But at the same time, this is auction, but it's a deposit. And so that the money will be locked in a smart contract. So as long as you want the username, it's being stuck. But if you say, I don't need it anymore, you basically kind of get the money back. And last thing is, does anyone know anything about Victory auction? Yeah? Who doesn't know Victory auction? Okay, honest people. So Victory auction is also called second I think winner auction or something. That basically if you everybody puts the bids, the person who bid the highest bid wins, but they pay the price of a second winner, which is supposed to be the kind of game theory mechanism to incentivize people to kind of bid honest price or something. And when we first did the auction back in, I think there might be data I might explain later, is that the highest bid amount was about 200,000 ETH. How much? I don't know how much that was. You remember 2 years ago? Yeah, but actually the highest amount people actually had to look was about like 10 times lower, like 20,000 or something. So that's kind of hash register. And yeah, because I mentioned that, I'll go through the bit of history. So this is the 4th time that there's an ENS talk in Ethereum London. Who has been to all 4 talks? Except me. I didn't talk all 4. Like first 2 was, I think the first time I went to Ethereum meetup was like back in 2016. It's either March or April. I think that time there's a first talk when Swarm guys gave a talk. Nick talked about ENS as a part of that. That was the first time. And after that, Nick gave a talk in 2017, and I gave a talk in 2018, and now I'm giving a talk in 2019. So this has been one of the kind of oldest project in Ethereum space. But it's officially kind of launched as a project in November, and launched in 2017 May 4th. And I joined during just about a year ago. And yeah, and before it was a kind of side project of the guy called Nick Johnson, who used to work at I think Guesty, but like he was doing it on the side, and also he's also known as one of the EIP editor. Does anyone know EIP? Yeah. Who doesn't know? I think I should just ask, like, who doesn't know EIP? Okay. Yeah. So EIP is the Ethereum Improvement Protocol. So like every time like people wants to improve the protocol of Ethereum, people do propose. It's just a GitHub repo, and that governance is kind of always like if you're looking at Twitter, there's people saying governance this, governance that. But like Nick is one of the person who's editing, I think almost like 2 years. So he's kind of pretty much well known. Yeah, and he was kind of doing all by himself. But like about a year ago, we got a grant from Ethereum Foundation for about $1 million, and that's a time when we form a new company. So people still think, oh, are you working in Ethereum Foundation? But actually, technically, it's not. Like we have a company in Singapore called True Names Limited. It's non-profit, and yeah, then now we are here. Okay, and interesting thing is this data. So another interesting thing is like there's 10 minutes left. I'm gonna speed up a bit. Is all the blockchain, all the things is in public, so anyone can dig into the data set. So like this kind of auction was I think when we first launched, it was taking up like 1/4 of the entire Ethereum traffic or something. And it was the time when like ICO boom just about to start. So okay, it was 2017 May. Then from April to August, that was a time when Ether price like surged from $10 to is it $200 or something like that. So like, and during that time, everybody's doing ICO madness. This was also happening. So you can kind of see like in the and also like when you first launch, that's when land grab happens, right? So like that's first 3 months. There's lots of activities. We did some things to kind of at that time, like everybody tried to do. One of the problems with ICO hitting the traffic a lot is that because it was a kind of fast come fast serve, like, and it's in a limited time window, people try to rush. We have some mechanism to kind of split the, based on a kind of, I think, hashed length of the name or something, we split across 3 months. So even though there's an auction about probably almost like 200,000 names, that was spread around 3 months. But during that time, there's lots of activities. And yeah, currently about 170,000 ETH lock, which is about 30 million, I think, USD. And the key figure which leads to why we're doing the new permanent registrar is that, so of the 270,000 owned, does anyone remember what Resolver is? Who doesn't remember Resolver? Okay, so everybody, okay, ish. But key takeaway is to use ENS, you have to set Resolver, okay? Resolver has a logic to serve you what address is for given ENS name. Yet, of the 270,000 owned, only 50,000 set the Resolver. That means, like, yeah, 82% of people, 100%, even though if you put the name, there's no guarantee that people are actually giving it away, like, you know, showing like I do all the time, right? But like setting the Resolver is one of the easiest metrics to track whether people are actually trying it. And that also there's another figure about 40,000 people didn't even finalize. So they just revealed and they found out they won, and they were happy and they just left out that is. Right, so like about 80%, more than 80% people are not really using. And who are part? So okay, raise your hand if you have an ENS name. And okay, what's the best way? Who are squatters? Okay, so you have basically you got some. How many do you have? One, and you didn't set.
No. I mean, what is a squatter?
Yeah, so people who haven't set the Resolver.
Yeah.
You have you set?
I have not set.
Okay, so you're a squatter.
I do fully intend to use.
Okay.
I've
Yeah. So it's a accidental squatter, basically. Yeah. Or uneducated squatter or whatever stuff. But so now we're gonna go to this so-called permanent registrar. The reason we call permanent registrar is like when Nick did the deployment 2 years ago. He is fully aware that like, he didn't know every single use case and what's good, what's bad. So he was going to change to more permanent one. I think we have this current registrar actually have a 4 years time span, and after 4 years, it just like vapors or whatever happens. So we knew we had to change it, and so 2 years, May the 4th is like 2 years anniversary since the launch. We're gonna migrate to this new so-called registrar, which I put a comparison that instead of doing the auction, it's going to be fast in, fast out. I don't know. Yeah. So basically, yeah, fast come, fast out, basically, and with fixed amount. And instead of doing 3 transactions in 5 days, you still have to do register and reveal. Why? Do you know? Anyone can explain?
Prevent collisions?
No.
2 people trying to register in the same block?
No.
Okay.
So miner can still front run. So that like because you know you said like everything is public, right? Even though now you are not. Yeah, sorry, I got too excited. Well, only technical bit I'm talking today. Yeah. Yeah, I just pressed this by mistake. So, is that when you send a transaction, before it gets committed, miner or whatever, or if it's just transaction takes too long, you can still go ahead, just snatch it. So that initially we set the time window that like until so like we put a time intention time interval that like once you do register, you have to wait 1 minute or something like that. Then you do the reveal. But if we for example, if we have the wait period, like for example 10 minutes, as long as the second reveal doesn't exceed 10 minutes, no one can go in front of you. Initially, it was supposed to be 15 minutes, but yesterday I just learned like we just going to change to 1 minute because that's a pain that we have to wait for 15 minutes. And then our biggest discussion is what we should put in while people waiting for 1 minute. And Nick was saying, yeah, we should put some funny YouTube video or something. But that's the biggest UX challenge we are trying to solve right now. And and another thing is the part of the reason why people don't care much is like because there is no cost involved, right? Because that money you put in the auction was just sat as a deposit. So for squatting, there's no cost. So one way to change is just to spend. So that we're going to change to fee, and at the same time, we're going to charge. We're going to go to the next one. Yeah, so pricing. So this one, we had a lot of discussion. Like we had 2 workshops for last 2 years to come up with what's the best ways to decide the pricing and how that kind of stuff. But we didn't really come up with convincing way. So we basically decided to set something very similar to conventional, basically domain name registrar. They charge like X amount, and usually most of the domains are $10. So initially we said like $10, but when we first posted in this forum, the people kind of against like, well, it should be cheaper. So I think someone suggested $1, and we just discussed, and we settled with $5. But important thing is we use fiat amount. Oh, actually, you spend in ETH, but we have some. Does anyone know Oracle? Yeah. Okay. So Oracle, who knows MakerDAO? Yeah. So MakerDAO is a stable coin, right? One way was to. Sorry.
If only.
It
isn't very stable.
Stable-ish, yeah. Stable-ish token. So we don't use stable coin, but we use the Oracle they use, so that we can get, for example, it could be, if you do it today, it's going to be, I don't know, what's the price of the...
180.
Okay, so the amounts equivalent of ETH. But if it goes to the moon next month, then we adjust using Oracle. But the actual amount you spend is ETH. Okay, 42 seconds. And and we also said like probably if it's shorter, it's more value, so it's going to be more expensive. And the use of the fund is still up in the air. That in the short term we put in the ENS multisig, and probably we're going to use for like development funding of the ENS itself, or if but like people think like we might get lots of money, but if you think about it, only the people, even if people who says a resolver, which is 50,000, if entire people transitions and start paying the registrar, it's only I think 250,000 or something. So it's not humongous amount. You have to bear in mind. And this is the UI it looks like. So you can put 1 year. 2 good things you have to know is like you can set as long as you like. So you can set 100 years now, and then you just forget about it. And also you can renew. Anyone can renew. So if you want to take this domain as a kind of public goods, and even if the person who owns it deceased, people can top it up. And I was just gonna skip short name auction code entirely, but like I'll put this slide on somewhere, so you can have a look. But important thing is May the 4th. Yeah, so this is only 2 minutes. So May the 4th is an important thing. That's when permanent registrar starts. I think in the 30 days after short name reservation process starts. Read this, if you want to know what that means. I don't have time to explain, but yeah, and migration program. Oh, and if you have the name, you have to migrate within 1 year from the Meta Force. Otherwise, you will lose the name, but you can still get the money until, as long as you like, back. Okay. So most important thing is this page that, you have lots of information. We just did the AMA. So like most of the question you have, probably you can find it. And the only thing you have to remember is this May the 4th. That's when all the permanent register starts. Thank you.